all that jazz. We're on the road to 2K, so go ahead and join today by clicking that red subscribe button. Today we are talking about surviving the corporate world, the do's and don'ts of the corporate world, all of that good stuff. This topic came in my mind because I was talking to coworkers and then I was like, sis, don't ever do that. Like, in my head they'll be telling me stuff and I'm like, don't do that. That's why that happened, because you said that or you did that. Now, I'm here to say I'm not a pro at this. Learning as I go, and we're all trying to figure it out. I'm not out here like corporate professional. No ma'am, no sir, I'm not. So don't think like, oh, she knows it all. Like, no. These are just the things that I've learned with being at 2 corporate jobs so far. This is just based off of my experience. So let's start with the do's. So number 1, I think that what I've learned so far is that you should be involved and show a little bit of interest in activity. So I'll come across people who are not as involved and they're just kind of like standoffish. Now, I'm not saying you should be like, yay, super cheerleader, let's go. Like, no. But I do realize that, you know, for example, at my job, we have things where we eat together. Lunch, like, we just get like a good hour where they'll get us food every Wednesday when we go sit down and we eat. And I'm like, we getting free food, the least I can do is sit down and eat at this table and talk to these people, you know what I mean? So do be involved in things like that. We had like an anniversary party and we've had a Christmas party. You know, if you can make it, you don't have to be fake and phony, but just show your face and just be like, I'm here. I'm like, you know, and I think it depends on like where you want to go with that company too, or if it's a position that you see yourself growing in, you know. But if you're like, sis, I'm finna be out, you don't gotta do all this. It's not this, you don't gotta abide by the dues right now. But another thing that you do need to know is that you can be replaced. But if you do, you can always find something better. Just know that there's companies that genuinely do care about you. I don't think you should look at it as like, oh, I'm just a number everywhere. I don't think that's the case. There's really great companies out there. But I don't think that, I think what I've seen as people come and go is, like, of course you might be shocked, because like I could be shocked. I hope that doesn't happen to me, but you know, also have to realize that like, hey, it's money and they're gonna do what they need to do for them. They're not necessarily like always gonna be like, at the end of the day, what's their overall. Another thing is, I think that it's a fine line between when the company says, oh, please do give us more information, or yes, please tell us how we can help better the company or help better your position. I think that there's like people who will do it negatively and then they'll get upset when the company gets like frustrated or kind of like puts them to the side. I feel like you have to do it in the most positive way possible. Like for me, I try to sit there and I'll rethink emails and be like, oh, let me make sure this is professional, especially as a Black woman, you know, like I have their stigmas, and that's the reality. So I try to come off as soft and feminine as possible and not hardcore, because first of all, I don't know what it is they're expecting. But I also just try to make sure that I'm keeping it professional, because I don't want to give them reason to switch their complete perspective of me to be like, oh. And it's not to say like, oh, I really care about what they think about me, because at the end of the day, like I said, there's a million jobs out there and I would just have faith that things will work out if that was the case. But you know, this is just part of what I learned. Another thing, even whether you see yourself with this company or in this position or not, I think it's best to get as much knowledge and experience as possible. One thing I've always been, as I've like from a child, is a person that always asks questions. So I'll always be like, not in college, because you know how you like have the annoying people and it's like you can ask questions but like relax though. I'd be the type that like if I'm learning or I'm in training, I don't like to be confused if I'm talking to somebody, like when I was on the phones, like on to a customer and I'm like, let me see. I don't like that at all. I want to be confident enough to deliver that information to somebody, because then they'll be like, oh, she don't really know what she's talking about. Let me get a manager, you know? So I always ask questions because I want to know as much as I need to know to communicate that information. I can attribute whatever I learned to another position, or whether that's a promotion or whether that's a new job, whatever it might be. I've learned and gained that knowledge because I ask questions and I'm like, hey, is this the way we should do things? Another reason I do that is because I want to be clear on the expectations of the role or the work in question. I want to make sure that, and that's just how I am in general, but I just want to make sure so that before you come for me asking me like or questioning me about things, I just want to have clarity on like, yeah, I know how it is, like, so why is it that you did this? And I can come back in a nice way and be like, well, this is what was told, this is how we, you know, we're told to go about it. The thing is, do be a giver and not just a taker. I've learned too that people are really in the corporate world, like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch you. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Some people, not everybody, but I have learned like some people might ask me stuff and it's like, yeah, you scratch my itch, and then if I'm coming to you, you don't mind helping me. And that's really just the reality of it. That's even in real life, right? And then another thing that I've learned, like, I don't know how sometimes I feel like I'm the counselor of the place and people just feel comfortable coming to me, and I have no problem with that, but I'm more of a listener. Like, people know bits and pieces of my life and like about my kids and my husband. They don't necessarily know everything. And so that is, do be a listener and not what my husband calls a chatty patty. So like how I tell y'all a lot of stuff and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's up. No ma'am, not doing that at work. Not doing that at work. What you do for the weekend, just chill. What you do for the just relax, because you give them a little bit too deep insight into your life. That's why we're gonna move on to the don'ts. Let's move on to the don'ts. So that's where we're rolling over to the first point of the don't. Do not tell people about your whole outside life. They don't need to know that. They don't. Now, like, I have a work bestie, right? And so like we've hung out outside of work. I trust her. Don't tell people about every little thing. Like I said, I have one work bestie that I'm comfortable with. We both tell each other like, girl, this is the tea, but we know that we're not gonna go tell the managers or the lead or anything. Like, it's literally between me and her, and we trust that. Just keep the bare minimum. Don't say, yeah, I went out, we got so lit, we got drunk. Don't do that. Don't tell them about your side hustles. That's not really any of their business, because what I've learned, or your future goals outside of work, what I've learned is like, then the company, it seems like if you have something outside of work, they kind of start thinking like, she's not trying to be here for real. She just trying to get a little dollar and go home, you know. But if companies do, and don't be, like I said, I'm saying these don't be fake about it, but just keep it to yourself, sis. You don't got to tell everything. I'll give y'all an example. Like, one of my coworkers, she wants to go into acting, so she'll call out or she'll not be there because she's taking these gigs, and the company is just like, oh, well, you know, when she's looking to be promoted, they're just kind of like, well, you're not really here because you're acting, or, you know, the reason why she's calling out is not their favorite. So things like that, I was like, you gotta just don't tell them. They find out, you know. Obviously, you're not gonna be like lying, being like, no, I don't do that. Like, it's not that deep if they find out. But just keep it to a minimum. Do your work, keep it light, keep it funny, keep it positive, and that's it. You don't even got to be the most super bubbly person. Talk to them and I'm honest with them, but that's it. You don't know anything outside of Jasmine except for what Jasmine tells you. If you know how in the beginning I was saying, you should go to events, you should hang out, but don't ever get like too drunk. Don't ever, you know, get wasted where they're like, whoa, this is a whole nother person, like, because that's not cute, and that's a shame that you kind of got to wear on your head. It's kind of like if you go to school, something embarrassing happens and then you got to go back. It's kind of like that. Don't get drunk. Like, just don't. You can have a little sip, because like we've had work events where I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna take a little sippy sip, but you will never ever see me getting like extra lit. Don't trust people with your deepest, darkest secrets. Don't think that, because it depends on the type of company you work for. But a lot of times, you know, Shaniqua gonna tell Letitia, and that okay, a lot of times Shaniqua gonna tell Shelly, or Shelly gonna tell Shaniqua, and you gonna always have people who like drama, who like gossip, who want to put your business out there. So that's why, keep it to yourself, sis. Keep it to yourself. Don't talk to other people about other people, because it's gonna get out. Like, it's probably gonna get told. Like, they're talking to you about that person for a reason, especially if they're saying, girl, let me tell you what they said about you. If they say those kind of lines, you gotta be careful around them. You gotta be careful. I've definitely learned it's been like, y'all, it be tea every day. It's tea every day. I've learned to be like, ooh, did they say that? Or, because that's happened to me before, like where one of my coworkers made something up about me having like COVID because I was sick or whatever, and I'm like, we don't even talk outside of work, where'd you get that from? But I didn't approach him. I just left it and was like, oh, okay, got it, I see what we're doing, but that's it. That's it. I'm not starting no drama. That's not me. Not talk too much negative about the job, because it will get around, and then once the people that are your managers or your leads or your bosses find out that's your perspective about the job, they're going to look at you different. And like I said, this is not a matter of like you care about what people think. This is a matter of you want to keep your check. They'll get around and like name drop and say such and such, and then be like, well, such and such agreed too. Like if you agree too much, that's why my favorite line is like, yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. I understand why that would make you feel that way. You know, I got hit them with the counselor line sometimes, but you know, just all I'm saying, don't talk too much negative about the actual job, whatever you're feeling. And another thing, last thing I want to add is HR is probably not your friend. HR is built for the company, not specifically for you. So I think it depends on the situation. If there's harassment or inappropriate things, absolutely go to them. But if it's something that made you feel some type of way and it really wasn't that deep, just move on. Like I said, if it depends on the situation, but just let it go. Don't even blow it up. Don't even, because they're there for the benefit of the company. Now, I'm not saying HR is never there for you, but that's from my experience. They're here to save the company. They want to make sure ain't no lawsuits finna happen. They want to make sure everything's gonna go smooth for them. Don't go tattletelling every little thing to HR. Just don't. That's too much. So that concludes this video. I felt like this was a different topic as I've like gotten back into it. It's been like 8 months, I think, now since I've been there. That concludes the do's and don'ts of the corporate world. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you like. If you really liked it, make sure you subscribe. If you're still here, you might as well. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.